And you're rolling, Amit.
Cool.
So, so, uh, so, guys, welcome to this session. So today is, I believe, it's episode 6, and today we're going to be talking about a very important aspect of writing code on the Apex on the Salesforce platform, which is about writing unit tests. This is often a very important topic and one of the most um, coveted topic that every developer writing code on the Salesforce platform needs to understand. I will not dwell into the nitty gritties. We already have uh, a champion speaker lined up who's waiting to share his wisdom. So, without any further delay, I would like to hand this over to Amit, who's going to be our captain of our ship, and he's going to be sharing his wisdom around writing unit tests in Apex. So, Amit, over to you.
Thank you, Jigar, and welcome everyone in episode 6. And here we are going to talk about how to write unit test cases for different Apex code or Visual Force code that we are going to develop either in coming sessions, or we have already developed in our earlier sessions. So before we go ahead, quick introduction about me. I'm a certified application architect, community leader, and a speaker. You have seen me either in Apex Hours or various community events like India Dream in Apex Hours. I'm also a MuleSoft leader and Lightning champion. You can follow me either on my Twitter handle, that is at @cloudyamit, and LinkedIn handle, that is simply Amit. So without making any delay, some housekeeping rules. Please be muted. Don't share your audio or video while until unless you are not talking. Keep adding your questions in the Zoom Q&A window, and we have reserved last 15 minutes of the session for you to answer all the questions and all possible questions that we can take into the reserved timestamp. So here is the agenda that we are going to discuss in next 60 minutes. What actually unit tests are and why they are needed, and then we will do some demo, and we will do some live demo so that we can actually get more understanding on how to write, how to execute, and how to see how much code coverage for your trigger or for a particular Apex class I have got from your unit test. So let's quickly start from a unit tested. So basically, if you say about unit tests, these are the tests that are performed from a developer side to ensure that the functionality that the developer is developing is currently working in both either positive or negative tests. So for an example, if I say there is a employee record where we wanted to put a validation on birthday field. So birth date must be either of today or before that date. It cannot be a present date or a future date. Sorry, future. So if you talk about employee, we can also put a validation of employee should not be less than of 18 years. And in other word, we can also say our project is working. We have done with the a small part of project, that project gone live and customers are using, and then there is some business that there is some requirement that comes up from the business and they wanted some enhancement on that. So at that time, developer will only work on a particular requirement or a particular ticket that has been raised for a enhancement. We have to make sure that our previous code that we have worked on version 1, for version 1, that is not breaking because of our new updated code that we are which we are putting into our previous code. So for example, let's say that we have a version 1 code which is gone live, and some after some time there is a code business needs some more functionality on top of that, or they want to reduce some functionality based on the feedback that they got from their customers. And then after some time we have updated some requirements as well, and that is going to the production environment, that is our live environment. So based on all these versions, we need to make sure as a developer that our code is working fine. And yes, there might be some testing team who is working apart from you to test the complete functionality, but that is their work. As a developer, we also need to put some testing there, put some code there to test our functionality. And we'll also see why we need, apart from all this, we have some parameters provided by Salesforce. This parameter must be accomplished while you are pushing your code into the live environment. So why unit tests are needed? So you see that we have got 4 points. First is validate desired behavior, and that we are talking about that an employee birth date must be, or an employee age must be greater than or equal to 18. We cannot allow any employee which is less than 18 years. This is a very simple use case. In real time, these use cases are not going to work, but yeah, this is a very simple and understanding use case that you can think of. And then we have got another use case that is saying that reduce bug cost. So consider a scenario where you've deployed your code without writing a unit test. Testing team has worked and the code is live in the production environment customers are using. But if you are not writing unit test for your code, that means there are ample number of possibilities which are going to break your code. And in that case, you will be wondering that why did not I test it, or we should be writing a unit test for that. So these are the two images. Like if you're writing unit test code, after deploying that code, you are going to get a very minimal number of bugs in your live environment, or there might be possibilities you are not getting any kind of bugs in your live environment. The third point is that we always need to perform testing in a bulk records. So as a developer, even most of the developers are doing testing in a very happy path. So they have written a code for some particular functionality. They will only test for either one or two records. And even the developers will only test for the valid inputs. Most of the developers will do the same. They will only test for the valid inputs. They're not going to test against the input, either their code is breaking or not. So for that, we have an option, or we can say that this is a parameter set set by Salesforce that we need to perform testing in a bulk way, at least for 200 records for a single functionality for both negative and positive testing. And at the end, we have to make sure that the overall code coverage of our environment is 75%. If the code coverage is even 74.99, that code is not going to deploy into the live environment. And why we need this 75% code coverage? Again, to make sure that our functionality is working fine. And even if you have developed some kind of functionality and somehow you were managed to achieve 75% of code coverage, but your main logic or the heart of your class or trigger is not covered, that doesn't go that is not like that you have achieved 75% and you are good. If the heart of your logic is not covering, please write a code coverage for that as well. That is why any business or any developer always prefer to write a code coverage of at least 95% for a single class or trigger. So these are some parameters that we should try test code coverage. So what we need to test, we have talked about like what are test cases, why we need to write test case, but what are the parameters or what are the code that we need to write a test cases. So we have talked about Apex trigger in our previous sessions. We need to write a unit test case for that. We talked about Apex classes. It might be a handler or helper class, or a class which is making a web service call out from a third-party system, either to send the data or to fetch some piece of data. That might be Apex REST or SOAP. For all Apex classes, we need to write a code. Then for some VF pages, we also need to write a code. If that VF page has a controller associated with that is a custom class or extension. So if your VF page does not having any kind of custom controllers in a form of Apex class, you no need to worry about your VF page. You can directly deploy it. Then you might have some Apex batch classes, queuable interfaces, or you have some feature methods in your Apex class. All these also requires test classes, test code coverage for you. And then at the end, we have got custom controller. So these are the points that you need to make sure you have written a test class for you. And Apex trigger is the key thing here. You have to write a test case for your Apex trigger. If your Apex trigger have 0% code coverage, your total code coverage is more than 75%, as we discussed in the last point of our why unit tests are needed. you will not be able to deploy the Apex trigger. That means your Apex trigger requires at least 1% of code coverage. So without making any delay, here is a simple syntax of your test class. Test class is a simple class that you need to write that you can develop from developer console on some IDE like Visual Force Code or from the Salesforce object setup. To make your class work as a test class, you just need to put an annotation that is called @istest. This will make your class to work as a test class. And inside test classes, you will have multiple test cases, some for positive testing, some for negative testing. And for creating test methods, you have a simple syntax @itTest. Then you need to put a static keyword void. And that means our test method is not returning anything to the system. And the name of your method, you can say anything. And there previously there was a keyword that was test method instead of @itTest. And now it has been deprecated, so we no need to worry about this test method keyword. So this comes to for you to write a very basic or simple test case. So let me go through my org. So this is a developer console of my environment where I have already put a skeleton for you. The name of the class is demo1 test class. And if you see that we talked about @istest annotation, we are using this @istest, and we have got 1, 2, and 3 methods. So I'll explain you what all 3 methods are doing. In this class, all the 3 methods are doing nothing. They are just inserting a test data. So you might be wondering why we need to insert test data. We have some data available over environment for the same object. So if we talk about account or contact, we have already some data available here in the environment. Why we are not using this data in our test class? So inside any test class, Salesforce recommends that we need to generate a test data for all the scenarios that we have developed a class or trigger instead of using existing data. Because in our production environment, there might be a million or billions of records, which all records are going to execute if you are trying to use existing data. We will show you how you can use existing data in the system as well. So in the later scenarios, we have already planned all those how we can use that. So all these test methods are doing nothing. So if you see, I've used the same keyword that we are using at the top of our class. Then we are using static void, and the name of our method is account test. Here we're just inserting a single account record, but we discussed that it should be in a bulk. We will discuss that in our later demos as well. Second method we have is contact test, which is doing nothing. It is inserting an account. Why we are inserting account? Because while inserting a contact, we must need to provide account for that contact as a best practice. Although it is a lookup field, we can ignore that. But in a real time, we should not create an orphan contact. That's why we are inserting account. And then we have a third method, which is for opportunity. And again, we are inserting opportunity here. So even to create a test class, I will just show you without using our existing class. So let's say that we are using demo1. This is a very simple class. We have got nothing. As soon as I'll try to put here @istest, and I will save this. So you can see that there is one more button which comes up or which populates run test. That means if you have put this @istest annotation at the top of your class will consider this test class, and you will see this button will automatically be appear for that class. If we go ahead like discuss about this class, which is not a test class, that button is not here. So this is one thing that you can verify. And the other thing is that all the test classes that you are writing are not going to affect into the all over into the complete code coverage of your environment. So if you have even 1,000 number of lines, or you have 10,000 number of lines in your single test class, those are not going to consider as a general class, and the code coverage for those classes is not needed. And then to write the test method, again you can use @test is test, and then this is a required syntax that you need to use, so you cannot remove either static or void. And then again, we talked about that there was a keyword. So we can use any of these, but as this is deprecated, we are more likely more to focus on this particular method. So let's remove this and try to save this. So this is how you can create, like, and under your single test cases, sorry, single test class, you can put multiple classes, but with a different name. And even this is how you can do that. The name is same. Now let's get back to our presentation. We have got, like, we have written, and now how we can uh, run, or how we can execute the test cases, how we can see the status of test cases, and if there are any error, how we can do that. So there are 2 or 3 places I will show you how to run, and what are the significance of all these three places. So I've mentioned only 2, but I will be showing you 3 places. So let's quickly see how we can execute. Again, we are here in our developer environment. So first, even first case is like from where you can execute. You can see that there is a run test button, and if you click on this run test button, it will run test synchronously. And here is on the bottom, you can see there are multiple tabs. Test is a tab where you will see either your test case has been successfully ran, or there is any kind of error. So we are getting some error. Why we are getting error without seeing, I'll just let you know. So there is a tab here as well. If you see file, edit, debug, and then next to debug we have got a tab that is test. So even I can give it a zoom so that you can see it properly. So there is a called test. Now if you click here, we have got a number of options here. There is a checkbox called always run asynchronously. Then we have got new run, and then we have got rerun. So what all these options are, let me explain you one by one. So if you did not check this checkbox, so suppose that you are in your environment, you have not written any unit test case in your environment, and even you have not executed any unit test cases there. You written a simple test class, say that demo1, you executed. At that time, it is going to execute your class demo1. That should be the desired behavior. That is correct. But now you have written one other class. You are saying that demo1 test class. In that case, if you are not checking this checkbox, this is again going to test the same class it has been previously ran. So if you see here, we ran demo1, but we found a class that is calculate. Why? Because I ran this class without checking this checkbox. So once I'll check this checkbox and I will try to run this demo1 test class, you will see that this time we will be able to see that our actual class has been ran. So if you see here, we are able to see the name of class, which is demo1 test class. And under that, you can see there are 3 methods that we created, and each method, even you can see here. And if there are few of the methods which were failed, you will see a cross red sign here. So these are the two ways that you can execute your test case. Before we looking forward into the third option, let me tell you a few of these options that are available here. Sorry, we have got only one. So this is the second. We have got new run. If you click here, you will see all the test classes that are available for your environment, and here you will only see available test classes. No classes will be available here, only test classes are. So if you say we are talking about our demo1, so if you try to filter here with the help of a text, you will see demo1 and demo1 test class. And once you click here, you will see that you have an option which method you wanted to execute. If you click on the checkbox which is on the top, it will say that all test methods selected. And if you don't want to execute this method, you will say that there are two methods which has been selected, and only these two methods are going to be executed. So when this is useful for you, suppose that you are working on an enhancement requirement where there is a existing test class for that requirement which was developed earlier by some other developer. Now you get into that project, you got that enhancement work, you develop that functionality, you are trying to develop a unit test for that. Instead of modifying an existing method, you wanted to create your own method. You created that, and then you wanted to execute only your method to see either your method is working correctly or not, either your method is successfully ran or there is any kind of error. And then after, you can use to execute all the test method to make sure that no earlier functionality has been broken from your code. So if you see here, let me remove this account test, click on run, and you will see now the option here, even we got asynchronous. If you click on this plus icon and then again, you will see that there are only two methods. It is excluding the method that we unchecked while running our test cases. So this is the second method we can execute our test case. Before we go ahead, we have got a rerun button. What it will do, if we click here, it is going to rerun the previous test that we just executed. We have rerun fail test. So let's say that you have 10 test cases inside your single test class. Out of 10, there are 2 are failing. If you click this button, after fixing those failures or the errors that you are getting, it is going to execute only two methods that were failing in previous run. Run all is like to execute all the test classes that are available into your environment. Abort is, if you click here, it is going to abort all the test running if you have executed any test. And we are going to talk about these three once we are done with the demo. To execute the test class with the third method we have got, you just need to go to your environment, click on this setup, and from the setup just type test case. Yep, this is the one, Apex test execution. So if you will click on this button, again you will find an interface here, a UI for you. So here you see that you have got a button called select test. Once you will click here, you will see, let me zoom out. Okay, let me refresh this once. If you select this, you can see all the test classes are available for your environment. Even you will see that these are the two test cases which you ran earlier. And if you wanted to execute, let's say that you wanted to execute demo on test class, select this, click on run button, and it will run a test case for you. So once you will click here, so you see that we are getting a green check mark that is saying that our test class has been successfully ran and there are no kind of errors. If there is any error and you wanted to check, you just need to click on that your class and you will see the status of your methods. You will get a hyperlink here next to each method. Once you click there, you will see the error or success message. If I click here, you can see that there is no error message and there is no stack trace. Stack trace is nothing. It is going to tell you the exact path where your test class is failing. So this is how you can run your test cases after you have executed or you have written your test class. Now let's talk about how you can see which particular, like what is the code coverage of your class. So let's talk about our first scenario. We ran a calculate class, which is a test class for calculator class. So if you see here on the right hand side, we have got all the classes that are available with the percentage of code coverage and the lines it has. So if we talk about this, and let's talk about this calculate class, it has only single line, code coverage is 100%. And if you talk about this case controller, we have got 0% code coverage. It has total of 6 lines which needs to be covered, but the lines that are being covered, 0. Again, if you talk about this contact trigger, we have got 8 lines that are being covered out of 11. The code coverage is 72. If you click on this, you will see here, let's see, we have got a trigger here. Don't worry about the code that is there inside this trigger. So you see that this particular line is being covered, line number 2, line number 3 is being covered, 4 is being ignored because we are getting a red color above that line, and then again 5, 6 is not being covered, 7 and 8 are being covered, and then again 8, this is not being covered. So you will see a dark blue, the lines which are being covered, and you will see a red color which are not being covered. And then after, you need to modification inside your classes or inside your test class to make sure that you are covering all these conditions. We also have a demo for this if and else conditions, so you need no need to worry about this. Now let's quickly get back to our slides. Again, now let's talk about a very important topic of our test classes. While we are working with test class, test setup is a time, or we can say that test setup method is a savior for us. So if we are using test setup method in our test class, we cannot use existing data from our system. So if you see point number 5, if you are using setup method, see all data we cannot use into our system. We'll talk it once we are doing a demo on this, and we will see how it is effective and why we should not use this into our test classes. It is also going to increase the performance of our test classes. And when we say that performance of our test classes is like we need to insert the common set of data into a single method, and that data is being available across all the methods of the test classes. And if you are doing a testing in a bulk, it is going to increase the performance because records will be created only once, and record will also be reverted only once instead of creating multiple times and then reverting back into the multiple times. And test setup method is a method which is being executed very first before any test method is being executed in your class. So, and then if you talk about fourth point, which is also important, if we are making any kind of modification inside a local method, suppose that we have got a test method and we are making any changes inside a test method, that is going to revert immediately after the test method has been executed. And if there is any error inside test method, your entire test class is going to be failed. How it is going to work? We have let's say that we have a class my unit test. Inside that class, you have got a test setup method, and you have got 3 test methods which are using this setup method. So how setup method is going to help us? It is going to create a common set of data in a single method. So if we talk about our example, let's have a look here into our demo 1 test class. You see we are using account inside every single method, and we are inserting account in three separate methods. That means it is going to make 3 DML for a single account. With the test setup method, we can insert account in a single method, and we can reuse that account across all 3 methods. That we will do in our next demo. So that is what this picture elaborates. So now let's talk about how we can do that. So there is a class. If we talk about custom test setup, it is a class for you. If you see that we have a method called setup. To make any method as a we can say that as a setup method which is preparing a common data for you, we have got an annotation that is at the rate test setup, and inside this method we are inserting 200 records. We are talking about doing a testing in bulkification. That is what we are doing here. We are running a for loop and we are adding all those accounts into a list. We already discussed about how lists are effective for us. That is why we are using list here. We are adding 200 records into the list. We are inserting those records. Now we have got two methods. One is test method 1, other one is test method 2. Let's see what we are doing inside our test method. To get all these records, or to get a single records based on our requirement or with the help of some filters, we need to do is just put a filter there, or sorry, just put a SQL query there. That is what we are doing here. We are querying an account. We are saying that select ID from account where name is test account 0. How we are identifying this name? We are putting this static test, that is test account, and then we are putting I next to each account. So it is starting from 0. That is what we are putting here, 0. And then again we are putting test account 1. That means we are only querying 2 accounts. We are updating a phone here. That is saying that phone number is 5551212, and here phone number is 99911, and whatever the number we are getting here. We're just updating here phone number for account test 0. We're updating here. We are again querying one other account. We are deleting it. So we are just performing some testing here to see if we are making any changes inside this method. Are those changes going to reflect inside the other method, that is test method 2, or those changes are going to revert back that we are discussing in our PPT. And then we have got test method 2. Again we are querying, we are checking that either our phone number for that particular account is the exact one that we did created in our setup method, or it has been changed. That is why we are putting assert. So we will discuss more about this asserts. And then we are again querying that account if that account has been deleted or not, because these two accounts we are playing with inside our method 1. So before we go ahead execute this test case, let's talk about this asserts as we already put here, so we can discuss. We have got assert method. Inside asserts we have we can say that we have assert, then we have assert equal, and then we have got assert not equals. These are the three methods that are very useful while we are working with our unit test cases. How these are useful? To verify either our class is working correctly or not. So let's say that my class is updating account phone. My class is updating contact phone with its related account phone. Now when I'm inserting an account and then I'm inserting a contact related to that account, it should update the contact phone with the account phone. To check that either it has been updated or not, we need to put assert. That is what we are doing here. We're just checking if our account phone is same as the account that we are creating here. So if we talk about, let me write pseudocode for you. For the first account, it will be, the name will be 0, and phone will be, we can say that 999 and 1110, because the I is starting from 0. For the second account, it will be 1, and then again phone number will be 999 1112, and then same thing goes with the third account, and then this phone number is this is 1, sorry, and this is 2, and then for the fourth account it will be 2, and let's talk about phone number as well. So this is how our accounts are going to be generated from this for loop. Now that is why we are able to put the filter based on the name. You can see that we already tested that this is the pattern which are going to be generated. And that is what we are doing here. We are checking our account number. So this is account number is the account that we are inserting. Now if we try to run test and see if our test case are passing successfully or we are getting some error. And you will see this progress bar indicator that is saying that your test class is being processed. So you can see our test cases are passing successfully. That means whatever the data we are inserting inside our test methods, if you are making any modification inside any local test method, that are not going to be affected if we are using that same data inside the other test method. Now let's quickly implement this the same in our demo class that we just executed in our demo one. So I'm going to quickly create a test setup method for you. Again, the syntax is same. You just need to change the name of your method if you wanted to. What we are going to do is, instead of inserting this account in every method, we are going to just do a query on that. So I'll do a query here. I'll say account record, and again I'll put an asset here as we discuss. I'll say asset not equals. While why I'm using asset not equal here, I just wanted to check that my account is not null. That means I'm getting some record in this list. And even if you want, you can put some debug and we will see either we are getting some value or not. Now let's remove this particular line. We just need to put this, and we will say here account record instead of ACCID. Now this time we are saving a time to create the same set of data. That means it is also helpful to make our code clean. It is also helping us to make our code reusable. And again, it is increasing the performance while we are working with the bulk records, as we'll definitely working with the bulk testing. So if we see here, let me expand this. So you can see that our test method has been passed, but it is still processing some background actions. So let's wait until we are getting that, and then we will see the logs of test classes as well. And these are the logs. If you go to the log tab, and you will see that these are the logs that are being generated, and you will also see operation is apex test handler. So these are all the operations that generate. And apex test handler is a class which is actually running in the backend to execute all your test cases, and then it gives you the log. So let's wait. Then I'm going to refresh this page. Okay, we have got this success, but we lost our debug. So we'll try to execute it once more, but this time it is going to give us a red sign, and the reason is we forgot to check this checkbox. And even if you go back here into your apex test execution, you will see that test case is running here as well, because both are the same thing, but the places are different. So it executed. If it executed, we will see here. You can go to log section. You can double click on this, and we will see that we have got debug only to see. You can see that we have a debug on 28. And this is create, and this is So if we go back to our class to make sure where our debug is, this is on line number 28. That is what we are getting here. The first debug is our debug. So you can see that this is how useful our test setup method is. And let's get back to our presentation.